A very good afternoon, everyone. Now I'll be taking the ophthalmological part. So as we know, mucormycosis management needs a multidisciplinary approach. We have already discussed this. And the pathogenesis involves angioinvasion, leading to mycotic thrombosis and ultimately ischemic necrosis. So mucosal immunity is earliest to be breached and can remain so even post-COVID, even after post-COVID recovery. So we continue to have mucor cases even when the patient recovers after COVID infection. Now coming on to the eye part directly, after general examination, we should do an eye examination. Sudden loss of vision is an alarming sign. In these patients, any patient who's in ICU, HDU, because these patients are more susceptible to COVID-19. So such patients, if they tell about the vision loss, then this should be taken very seriously. And this should be documented. Now, in patients who are in ICU, you cannot make them read the Snellen's chart. So what you do is just let them cover one eye on the bedside only and show them fingers. So counting fingers, how many, that should be documented. And that documentation plays a very, very important role. Now, besides eye, the periorbital skin, it can show facial edema, discoloration, numbness. This is the late case. This is in the pre-COVID era. But yes, this lady, she had uncontrolled diabetes and she had PL negative vision. So you can see she has the lids are ptotic. So ptosis in the ptotic lid, they also signify that the orbital apex is involved. So that should again ring an alarm bell. Eye examination, we can also have discharging sinus over the lids. We can have corneal ulcer or even globe perforation. Pupil examination is again very important, and a simple torch is needed for pupil examination. In case of third nerve palsy, this happens when orbital apex is involved. We can have mid-dilated and non-reacting pupil. If RAPD is present, that means optic nerve is involved, and this should again lead to suspicion of mucor. Then we can have chemosis. Chemosis is also an important sign. Pupils in this particular patient, we can see a mid-dilated pupil, which is not reacting to light along with chemosis. Now, such a patient should be followed daily because we are suspecting mucor in this case. Then again, we can have proptosis. If it is predominantly orbital involvement, then the eyes can come out like this. So we can have proptosis. Then again, it can ring an alarm bell. Now, ocular movement should be checked. That is very important, whether the eyeball is moving in all directions. So this patient, this is the central part. That means this patient is presented with ptotic lid. Now we can lift the lid and ask him to look right, to look left, up, down, and up and right, up and left, down and right, down and left. So this way we have to assess the globe. In this particular patient, we can see the eyeball is fixed. It is not moving. So not moving eyeball with mid-dilated pupil and ptosis, that again shows that orbit apex is involved. And usually third, sixth, and fourth nerve, they also are involved in such cases. Now, fundus examination is again very, very important because some patients, they present with sudden loss of vision, and when you examine the fundus, you can see a CRAO, arterial occlusion, and that is the only presenting sign in case of mucormycosis. That can be the only presenting sign. Now, investigations, why MRI is important for us? MRI is important for us because we have to see how much is the involvement of the orbit. Because mucormycosis, it comes through the sinus, but it reaches the medial wall of the orbit first, and then it enters the globe. So in order to debride the tissue to make how much exenteration has to be done, whether it should be subtotal, total. So we need investigation of MRI to see how much involvement is there. Contrast MRI, MRA, MRV, if can be done, very important. Then CT is also, MRI takes half an hour. So patients from HDU or ICU, they cannot be subjected to MRI. So CT can be an alternative in HDU patients at least. So they can get a CT done. So you can see here, there is entire globe involvement, mucor, and now it breaches the floor and enters into the maxillary sinus. Now management. We know that more than 50% mortality rate is there. It should be treated as an emergency, and we treat it as a carcinoma. We treat these patients as a carcinoma patient because they can metastasize to any part, like they can move to any part, and with great speed. So without delay, we should initiate the therapy even on clinical and radiological suspicion, we can start the therapy and should not wait for biopsy or KOH report. So early diagnosis, reversal of predisposing factors, wide local debridement of the necrotic tissue. If the necrotic tissue is not debrided, then no medicine will be effective. Then establishment of adequate sinus drainage and systemic antifungals play a key role in the management. So management, there should be a coordinated team approach. We should have systemic control also. So it goes like this: first a team approach, then we should have systemic control, then antifungals can be started after consulting the physician, then sinus debridement should be done. And if orbit is involved, then we can have a peribulbar or retrobulbar injections also, depending on how much orbit is involved. And medial wall can be taken out. Then, or lastly, we should opt for orbital exentration, because in this case, sight is not before life, life is before sight. So even if we need to, for sake of life, we need to sacrifice the eye. Now, basic investigation, first of all, as you suspect a case of mucormycosis after seeing all these symptoms and signs, so you should go for microbiological evaluation of the sample. Meanwhile, you should start with amphoB and posaconazole after physician's advice. Meanwhile, when the diagnosis is confirmed and after an MRI, if the MRI or CT, if it is predominantly involving the sinus and vision is preserved, because nobody will sacrifice a seeing eye. So exentration should never be done in a seeing eye. This is unless and until absolutely mandatory. So if the vision is preserved, then aggressive sinus debridement along with the medial wall debridement can be done. Then we should wait for 72 hours after giving the amphoB and posaconazole. If the disease progresses, then we have no option left and we have to resort to orbital exentration. Now, then again, if the diagnosis is confirmed and there is predominant orbital involvement and limited cerebral extension, it has not gone into the CNS, then early exentration and FES can suffice. If in case of extensive cerebral extension, then we can have conservative management and we should have to consult the neurosurgeon regarding how much tissue needs to be debrided and how it can be done. But in ICU, patients who are not fit for surgery, it is very difficult to get them. Surgery is very difficult for them. Now, exentration is a radical procedure consisting of removal of the orbital contents, including orbital fat, conjunctival sac, globe, and a part of all of the eyelid. It can be total, subtotal, or extended. Now, debridement of the tissue needs to be done until bleeding occurs, which is indicator of the extent of surgical resection that needs to be done. That has already been discussed by Dr. Amit. Now, when to do an exentration? Again, I'll say mainly orbital involvement with blind eye. So blind eye is important and a consent needs to be taken, very important, before exentration. We cannot do it just like that. A consent from the family members, from the patient, if that needs to be taken, and it is the most important part before exentration. No or minimal extension to cavernous sinus. So it is restricted to the orbital apex and it has not invaded the cavernous sinus. In case of unilateral cases, before they become bilateral, so we have to do exentration. Worsening or no improvement in 72 hours after starting the antifungal therapy. And again, it should be the surgeon's discretion. So in this case, you can see, so this is an exenturated case. Now, another thing that has cropped up now is transcutaneous retrobulbar amphotericin B injection TRAMP. So we can have it. First, let me tell you how it is given. It should be given under all aseptic precaution. A 2 ml syringe with needle no longer than 22 millimeter. Then usually it comes from the medial side. So it is very painful injection. So first we have to give 2 ml injection of lidocaine before injecting, then wait after 5 minutes, then inject 1 ml of amphotericin B, which can be reconstituted with 10 ml saline, and it should be given medially. So what are the precautions before giving the injection? Because post-injection, we can have orbital inflammatory reaction, increased conjunctival chemosis, increased orbital pressure, orbital compartment syndrome, and transient orbital edema. So in case of orbital compartment syndrome, which is rare in status post-FES, but if no FES is done, better to do a lateral cantholysis and canthotomy under LA before undergoing TRAMP. Now, indications for TRAMP are not clearly defined. We usually do it in very early orbital disease. Progressive orbital disease, despite of maximal therapy, you have given everything, you have done everything, and still the disease is not being controlled, then we can resort to injections. Advanced orbital disease as a conservative approach. When nothing can be done, at least we can do something. But this does not help until the necrotic tissue is debrided. So debridement is the key point, and it has to be debrided. But then you can do it as a conservative approach if nothing can be done for these patients. So it has no proven role as an independent therapy. Thank you so much.